Basically, what I'm recording is my hitbodedot, my isolated prayers to Hashem, where I speak to Hashem, and that is prayer. When you're speaking to Hashem, this is an individualized prayer that they call hisbodedot, especially in Bretzlav. He perfected it, and it's the individual's prayer to God, talking to God. In retrospect, that's what my entire opus of videos is. When I say that I'm doing these for myself, basically they're the recordings of my hitbodedot, of my conversations with God, with Hashem. And these conversations, by definition, are prayer. In hitbodedot, you talk to God as a friend. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm speaking to myself here. But I'm going to proceed on with this. I'm going to define some things along the way. I'm trying to get to the highest realms. Lacanian therapy, you can look it up, Lacan, Lacan, who is an extender of the Freudian technique. I'm going to say it now at the 2-minute mark here, but the Freudian technique of psychoanalysis was actually taken from Rabbi Nachman of Bretzlav's hisbodedot technique of talking to God for an hour a day. In the original psychoanalysis, people used to talk to a therapist, and the therapist was behind a screen. In other words, you didn't see the therapist, you just spoke out, just spoke. And this is no different than hisbodedot, talking to God for an hour a day, because you're not going to see God either. That's the entire point. You don't see God, you hear. And that's a great secret of the word Shema. Shema means hear, but there's a deeper meaning, and that it actually means absorb. See, the ear absorbs. You hear words, you absorb words. And that's the whole function here. Anyway, it's to get you to hear, to not hear H-E-R-E, but to hear H-E-A-R, because Hashem is speaking to you at all times. That's why hisbodedot is very good, and in the middle of the night, or before you go to sleep, when things are quiet, or they tell you to go out to the field, to get away from the noise, so to speak. Anyway, my suggestion is to do not an hour a day, but what they call the Lacanian short session, which used to be 12 minutes a day. The important thing with psychoanalysis and with prayer is that you do it every day. Now, why I said the Shema is the one prayer in Judaism that you say in the language that you understand. So in other words, English. You have to understand the Shema. So you say the Shema in the language you understand. All the other prayers you can mumble in Hebrew. Nobody knows what they are. They say a whole hour of prayers. Have you ever really completed every word of the Asheri prayer? Or have you started in the beginning and then kind of like skipped all the middle and go to the last line? Well, don't feel bad because everybody else does it also. And partly, all these prayers are communal prayers. They look to do it in a group of 10. And in this final analysis, this stretching of the individual who is represented by the Nazir. And that's why the Nazir is frowned upon by the society, because he's an individual. And so this morning when I woke up, I've done this gematria before under other circumstances, but when I woke up, I did the gematria of Nazir, fully spelt out. The gematria is 703. 703 is the gematria of Even, Aleph, Bet, final Nun. That's 1, 2, and 700. That's 703. Even is composed of the word Av, Aleph, Bet, and then Ben, Bet, final Nun. So Even is Av and Ben together. That's in my family is my father and son. This is in my family also, me and my father, or me, or Av, father, and his other son, who share a common space. Even is the stone. And in my meditations this morning, I'm looking for the space that's in Rod Low. And what is Rod Low? Rod Low, in a certain sense, there's a stone there. Foundation stone. Part of the thing of the Even Hashatia. The Even Hashatia, but the Even, it's the idea of a stone, that there's a rock there. There's a rock in the highest levels of the mind. This stone in the highest levels of the mind. Could it be a kidney stone? Could it be a gallstone? In the highest levels of the mind, there's a Even. This Even is a solidification of the Rod Low. As you know, when you read the first Mishnah of Nazir, that all substitutions or even words of intention make you a Nazir. The strange part of the communications in in Nazir, in Tractate Nazir, in the first Mishnah, is that language makes you a Nazir. It's all language. This highest realm is depicted by language. Your man is a medaber, speaker. Language is the highest realm, and that's what the whole idea of the Freudian slip in language. And so as we talk for 12 minutes in the highest realms, we get to our inner self. This inner self is represented by the Nazir. And this Nazir is for a man a feminine self, and for a female a feminine self. It's not that the female becomes male there. It's that the female is a female, and the male has a female entity. This level of Nazir is a Keter Malkus. This Malkus level is always feminine. Isn't it strange in a religion that doesn't have women put on tefillin, who doesn't have women do the bris? The women are basically, it's not even a woman's religion. You mean you have to tell somebody, don't kill? That's not special to Judaism. But the special things of Judaism are not even necessary for a woman. Tzitzis, tefillin, you know. However, they can become Nazirs. A man and a woman are equally acceptable to become Nazirs. And a Nazir is the highest level of individuation in the Jewish religion. That's why it's frowned upon, because it's an individual approach. It's kind of like your religion. A woman can do this. A woman is not even required to say the Shema. She's not supposed to say the Shema. It's the same level as tefillin. Woman doesn't put on tefillin. Woman doesn't say the Shema. Not commanded to say the Shema, yet she can become a Nazir. So figure that out. And when you figure that out, then you'll see that Rod Lo, the head that is not a head, the head that is not known, this is the highest head. It's made up of 3, by the way. And in my opinion, in a certain sense, an Aleph, a Bet, and a final Nun. This 703 is also in regular letters, Gan, because this is Gan Eden. Rod Lo, in a certain sense, is the Gan of Gan Eden. And in that space where we're supposed to go, in the highest realms of consciousness, where the secular think that you're speaking to yourself, but the religious know that that's God speaking to you. To enter that realm with Hisbodedot. This is the level of Rod Lo. And in Rod Lo, these are the three highest Sephirot of Atik Yomin. Keter, Hokmah, and Bina, which are the uncovered head. It's the level that's head that is not known and cannot be known. The real secret here is it cannot be known. And this is women's thinking. It's the head of the most physical. When one recognizes that women are the most physical entities, that's the lowest level of Malkus. That's Malkus of Osea. Malkus of Osea world comes up and becomes a Keter Malkus of Rod Lo. So in a certain sense, this unknown head is the most physical. It's a Keter Malkus. And it comes up, and how does it crown it? It may crown it as a fourth level, even above these other three. Because threeness implies masculinity. Threeness implies, in a certain sense, implies two testicles and a phallus. It implies a right, left, and center. But there may be a fourth, even in Rod Lo, above that. This may be the crown of Ein Sof itself that comes from Malkus. Examine women and see how the most physical they are. Unapologetically physical. Buying shoes. Examine high heel shoes. Examine what they are. Thigh-high boots. Examine what they are. Examine the need for a new dress. Wearing furs. Makeup. The most physical. And then they have no da'as. They have no das to begin with, so how can they have a Keter Malkus of the highest head? And what goes into that head? It's the head that cannot be known, because you do not understand or know women's thinking. It's an impossibility. You don't know what's going on in a woman's head. And that's what makes it the highest head. It's the head that's not known and cannot be known. A man's thinking can be known. But to get to the highest level of Rod Lo, cannot be known. It's the woman's head. And in the holiday of Purim, This whole idea of Esther and how it transformed the consciousness and the materialism and the world itself. How Esther Aleph Samach for Ein Sof and Tov Resh for 600. "600" is the final mem, and this comes up from, there's a transformation in Malkuth. Malkuth transforms into a final mem. One spells Malkuth with a square, and this becomes a fourth-sided entity. And even in Rod Lo, there's a fourness which is expressed in the four letters that we depict Rod Lo with. Resh, Dalet, Lamed, squiggle, and then Aleph. So even in Rod Lo, which are three levels, three Sephirot, the highest Sephirot of Atik Yomin, it's depicted with four letters. The head, which is Rosh, which is not known and cannot be known, is depicted in four letters as Rod Lo. And this is the feminine. For a male, too, that crowns the masculine. And this is the crown, the atik, or not. That's not atik, but it's the I forget the words. The crown of the phallus. It's the transformation of also the lower two letters of in the Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, from Yud Hey Vav Hey into Yud Hey Hey Vav. It's the crown of the feminine, the Keter Malkus, and this has to be explored in Rod Lo. This is the Even in Rod Lo. This is the stone. When you enter Rod Lo, you're also an animal. You're an Aiel in Rod Lo. You're a shofar in Rod Lo. In Rod Lo, you will examine the gematria of 586, which has to do with the HaKotel. Which happens to be what I'm showing you right now. And you thought you were looking at nothing. Ah.